Coming up,
SpaceUp San Diego and Yuri's Night.
the United States starts remaking plutonium.
And Chris Hadfield's the commander of the ISS, eh?
All that, plus we've got a live interview with the Mars Initiative. Stay tuned. It's go time. And welcome to Spacevidcast, episode 6.08 for Saturday, March 16th, 2013. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. And before we get into space news today, I do have a quick plea for everyone out there. I'd like to tell a story, actually, if I may, to go into my plea.
Okay, but you suck at stories, so go ahead.
Thanks for that. I was at work last Friday, and we were talking about different television shows. For example, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, right? And kind of how television is degrading into just this lowest common denominator type thing. And we got to talking about how there's going to be this divide between the lowest common denominator for television and potentially the more epic stuff sitting on the internet, stuff like Spacevidcast. I will use us as an example.
I was just going to say, I'm sure that came up in conversation.
Yeah. Well, no, it did. It totally did. But in order for this to... It's a numbers game, right? It really comes down to the number of subscribers to your channel, how many views that you've got, and that's going to attract advertisers, and that's going to get you the money that helps you produce better shows, that helps you get more viewers, where it snowballs. So my plea for everyone isn't to give us money, it isn't to do anything else, although we always appreciate your epic subscriptions. My plea is go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. If you've got friends, go there and subscribe. And if you like the shows, actually watch them and talk to people about them, because at the end of the day, it's that growth that advertisers like to see. And by showing some of that growth, you can actually do more and more stuff. And I would love it. I would absolutely love it if there were a day when Spacevidcast had better ratings than Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. That would be like the most epic, awesome day for me in the world. I know that's a huge far cry from reality, but that's my plea for everyone. YouTube.com, and then go to /Spacevidcast and subscribe, and that will help us out. And of course, watch the videos, because like I said, it's a numbers game. All right, let's get straight into space news then. SpaceUp San Diego is this weekend, March 23rd and 24th, and SpaceUp is my personal favorite unconference. If you're not familiar with what an unconference is, you've probably been to a traditional conference, one would hope, one where you go in and you see the speakers and they do their thing. And then what happens is you go out in the hallway and you have these really awesome and interesting conversations with people, right?
Yeah.
And what SpaceUp is they eliminate the speakers completely and say, let's just have those hallway conversations. So when you show up, there are no speakers, there are no topics, no one's talking about anything. There are just a series of rooms and people. And you go up to a whiteboard and say, at this time, let's talk about Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. I don't know. Let's talk about plutonium. Let's talk about SpaceX. Let's talk about, next generation propulsion in space.
Right.
And you choose what you want to talk about. And anyone who's interested in that topic joins you for your room, and you have a roundtable discussion about whatever it may be. And it is a ton of fun. And because of that particular format, it just so happens that everything is then hyper relevant to whatever happened. Unlike a traditional conference, they've got the speakers well in advance. So if there was something that just recently happened in space, with the most recent grasshopper jump, right? There's probably not going to be anyone on stage talking about that at a traditional conference, but at a SpaceUp, very likely that something like that would be
not to
brought up.
mention that how many times have you gone to a conference, maybe the same conference or even different conferences, and they have the exact same people there talking about the exact same thing, almost giving the exact same speech they gave at the last conference you saw them at. This is different because while you've been to those conferences, you're not going to be giving that speech. Ben's not going to be giving that speech. I'm not going to be giving that speech. We are going to have a much more interesting conversation than anything that could be done at a regular conference.
So that's this March 23rd and 24th, and it's in San Diego. And there are SpaceUps all over the world at this point. It's kind of growing organically. It's really cool. But our personal favorite is San Diego because it was the first. It's where the founders were. It is the birthplace of SpaceUp. And so if you can find a way to make it out there, join us. us at SpaceUp San Diego. That's basically this coming weekend, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Also coming up is Yuri's Night, and that is occurring on April 12th, as it does every year, because April 12th is the anniversary that Yuri Gagarin first entered space, which is kind of awesome. It was the first time that any human had entered into space, stayed afloat for a little bit there, and then came back down eventually. And then April 12th, 1981, that was April 12th, 1961, I apologize, 1981 was the very first space shuttle launch. So it also holds not just significance in the human spaceflight arena, and not just the Russian spaceflight arena, but also the American spaceflight arena, and really for all of humanity, which is really, really cool. And Yuri's Night is a space party celebrating our human presence in space. And those also are going on worldwide, as well as off-world on the ISS has a tendency to have some parties, and also things like Second Life, World of Warcraft, etc., etc. So hit up yurisnight.net, find a party near you, and if there isn't a party near you, start one, and it'll be epic.
It better be, at least.
It will be.
So in the late 1980s, the United States stopped producing plutonium. We did this by design. We were done making it, and we actually do use plutonium for non-weapons grade stuff. Specifically, plutonium-238 is used on spacecraft such as Curiosity. Well, when the U.S. stopped making it, that meant that we had an X number of supply until we ran out, and our supply has dwindled down to basically nothing. Then we went to Russia and said, hey guys, would you mind helping give us some plutonium? I'm sure we bought it from them. They didn't really give it to us. But now their supply is dwindling. And so, for the first time in nearly 25 years, the United States is starting to spin back up non-weapons grade plutonium, specifically plutonium-238, and it's going to be used for NASA to power its deep space probes. This is a really, really good thing. Now, there are different types of power generation you can use off of plutonium. There are some next generation systems that are coming out soon. Although the interesting thing is we likely will not use any of the next gen stuff on spacecraft because it's so efficient you can't get the heat back.
Oh.
So like on Curiosity, we use plutonium, and then all the excess heat we use to warm the vehicle back up. On these next generation systems, that excess heat won't necessarily be there anymore, and so then you run into a problem if now your vehicle gets too cold.
Right.
So while it may be more efficient, regardless, next generation, we're restarting plutonium production here in the U.S., which means that we can now start doing some deep space probes again and doing some really cool stuff back out in space.
Very cool. Well, isn't this the same stuff that Homer Simpson does?
It's the same stuff that Homer... Exactly. It's exactly the same stuff that Homer Simpson does.
So really, we have been making it this whole time. It's just in cartoon form.
In cartoon form. A.
C.
C.
Did you know
No.
that not only is there a Canadian in space right now...
I don't think that's a Canadian accent. That's a Minnesotan accent.
It is a Minnesotan accent. I apologize. But most people think they were from Canada anyway with that kind of accent. Not only is there a Commander Hatfield... astronaut Chris Hadfield, also known as Commander Hadfield, he is now in command of the International Space Station, which is the first time that a Canadian has been in command of the International Space Station, and that's a very, very cool thing, I think. Excuse me, anyway. And because this was such a momentous occasion for the Canadians, the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, expressed well wishes to Hadfield, as well as the Queen, which I thought was really, really cool. He will be in command until May, I believe it is. Yep, until about mid-May is when he's going to be returning to Earth. So it's a short time, but he's been up there since December. And he's been, of course, I'm sure many people have heard, he's been sharing all of his experiences with us down here on Earth via Twitter and YouTube. And he's done
Google
songs,
Plus.
and he's done experiments.
Yep.
He's tweeted William Shatner.
Yeah.
Like,
he's fun. He's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And he's got a really great vision of how he wants Expedition 35 to go. So I can't wait to see what happens with all of that.
Now, before we go into break, a little happy birthday notice to SpaceX. SpaceX just recently turned 11 years old.
Aw,
Can you believe
so
that?
Cute.
It's been a long time.
Tis a tween.
Tis a tween. SpaceX tis a tween. It doesn't feel like it, right? It feels like only a couple years ago when we were starting to talk about Falcon rockets and how they were going to change the industry, but they are now over 1 decade old. So congratulations to SpaceX for being able to stay around in an industry that everyone says can't do it, you're not going to be able to make it. And they've pretty much proven everyone wrong. So on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And in the break, we're actually going to show you the SpaceX 11-year anniversary video that they put out to the rest of the world. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
About 15 seconds. GCPT net A. PT net A. All stations verify ready to launch. All stations acknowledged.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Dragon is in orbit. Flying up in a human-rated Dragon is not going to be an issue.
And welcome back. In the chat room, they asked if that video was posted separately on YouTube, and it is indeed, in fact, posted on YouTube at youtube.com/SpaceX, where you can actually watch just that one specific video. And I think they did a fantastic job doing that. Joining us now live via Skype, we've got Steve Bassett from the Mars Initiative. I was like, Institute. No, the Mars Initiative. Steve, welcome to Spacevidcast.
Thanks, Ben and Carrie. It's great to be here. We're really I've watched all of your videos over the last year or so, and I love your videos. I love what you guys are doing. And when we had the opportunity to come on and speak with you and the rest of your guests and your members, we were really excited about it. So thank you for that.
Well, so tell us, what is the Mars Initiative? What are you guys doing?
So the Mars Initiative is a global fundraising organization, and our aim is to raise funding to help support the first human mission to Mars.
How are you going to do that?
Well, let me just start by saying that the reason that the organization started, it kind of segue off of something that Carrie mentioned about going to a lot of these space conventions where it seems like the same kind of topics are discussed. Our founder, his name is Mina Mukhar, and for about a 10-year period, he was attending various space events, and one of the questions that he asked about 2 years ago, after going to some of these events for about 8 years, was, well, where's the funding going to come from? How are we going to pay for this? And it really wasn't a good answer. And so his vision was to form an organization where our sole purpose was to bring in, to help people who otherwise wouldn't be able to be active in the space industry. That is, to be involved in sending humans to Mars, to be able to volunteer, to be able to donate, to be able to support a cause as great as something like that is. And so that's basically the idea of how the organization was formed. Now, there are a lot of volunteer organizations out there, but what really makes the Mars Initiative unique compared to other nonprofits is this. First of all, we are a 100% volunteer organization. Everyone on the leadership team, down to we have 85 volunteers across the world. Every single person is a volunteer. And all money that's donated to the Mars Initiative is put into a public fund that stays in that fund and compounds over time. And it will never be spent until that first organization or that group of organizations successfully lands humans on Mars with the intent of building human habitats. So that's really why the organization was formed and where the money is going to be spent.
Now, I do want to be clear, though. You guys yourselves, you're not going out and building habitats. You're not building launchers. You're not doing this. You're helping to fund these programs, correct?
That's correct. We have right now, as I said, about 85 volunteers. And we have about 250 space advocate supporters, that are people who are have said, we like what you're doing. We want to support you. And so we are growing. And our volunteers range from people who are scientists, people who are finance experts, marketing experts, engineers, aerospace engineers from all walks of life. And what we really want to do is to use our passion, use our enthusiasm, use our excitement, and our expertise to form an organization where we can promote a manned mission to Mars around the world and get as many people involved as possible who otherwise wouldn't be able to do that.
So a quick question from the chat room. Nick Forever, I believe is how you pronounce that name, asked if you've reached out to people like Robert Zubrin for endorsement or support, or in people kind of in really trenched in the Mars area.
Yeah, well, we definitely have. We've been in contact with him, and I don't want to say that he's officially sponsored us, but he does like. I can tell you that he does like what we're doing, and he is one of the people that Mina Mukhar, our president, initially spoke with about 8 years ago, and so that's kind of how this whole thing got moving forward.
How much do you need to raise for something like this, right? I mean, we're talking about going further than humans have ever gone before. What does it take? How much do you need to make this happen?
Right. Well, the thing about it is there are a lot of different estimates, and we know that it's in the many, many, many billions of dollars. And it would be unrealistic for our organization to say we plan on funding the majority of this. What we really want to do is incentivize, build up a fund, and incentivize organizations around the world, whether it's U.S. space agencies or private space companies, or it could be overseas. I mean, we see China, we see Japan. Their space technology and advancement is growing astronomically, for lack of a better term. And so really, this isn't going to happen 5 years from now. We all realize that. If it happens 10, 15, 20 years from now, we really don't know who the major players are going to be, who's going to eventually win, who's going to get there first. We can make assumptions now, but we don't know for sure. So what we want to do is allow as many people to be involved and just start the donation process, start to build up that fund, start to raise awareness, to get as many people involved as we possibly can over time. And just to say that we were a part of it. If you think of big things in human history, like the building of the pyramids, for example, that was one of the major historical events in human history. And we believe that putting human beings on planet Mars with the potential of possibly living there, creating a new world, that hundreds of years from now, that is going to be a moment in time that people will definitely remember. And we believe that there are a lot of billionaires, a lot of rich people out there, and we certainly want as many of them to help as possible. But we also believe that every individual here should be able to share in that experience, and so that's really what we want to accomplish.
Actually, Law Dog brought up a really interesting question, which comes to the end game, right? So you're raising all of these funds. You can do that a couple different ways. You can have a small number of people donate a lot of money, or a large number of people donate a little amount of money, or everything between. But then, what's the end game? Are you like an X Prize Foundation, where the first guys that make it there get this pot, or how does that work in the end?
Right. So the money would be given to the first organization or group that successfully lands humans on Mars with the intention of creating a habitat, because that's really what we want to see happen. We're very excited about Inspiration Mars and what they're doing. We believe we fully support what they're doing, because that's certainly promoting space exploration, and that's what really all of us want. But we really have been focused from the beginning of really creating that defining moment of putting human beings on Mars. So any organization that can successfully do that, that would be the organization that would receive this funding.
And talking about Inspiration Mars, right? Because they're going to Apollo 8 this, right? They're going to go around it, but they're not going to land on Mars. Mm-hmm. So if they did that, that's not your goal. That's not your end goal. You support them in doing that. You think that's awesome, but they wouldn't get any of the money. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can I just ask a sort of a weird clarifying question, if I may?
Absolutely.
So you said that the organization that who gets to Mars with the intent of building the habitat, does that necessarily mean, say, if somebody has the chance to send a whole ton of robots that are there specifically to build a habitat, would that sort of count? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we really have narrowed it down to the first to actually put people on Mars
Gotcha.
because we really believe that that is a defining moment.
Mm-hmm.
I know that last week you talked with Stott Space, and I'm really excited that they're another organization that's out there that's really trying to build collaboration among the space community. So that's wonderful. Um, but I think that type of thing is exciting, but to actually put a human being on another planet with the possibility, knowing that we could potentially use terraforming and turn that into a long-term habitat, I just think that is an epic moment that I think that's a type of a cause that you could get a lot of people behind. And so that's why not only do we believe in that as the main cause, we believe because it is such a huge event, that it's the type of event that we can get the amount of people and the amount of money behind the organization that we're looking to do.
So one of the other questions from the chat room, do you do outreach to politicians and government agencies? And actually, do you do any outreach at all, or is this all kind of word of mouth?
Well, that's a good question. We just started an ambassador program. Right now, we have ambassadors in India. We have representatives in China, Japan, the UK, Hungary. Someone from Hungary just came on board last month. In basically 10 different, I think there's around 10 different countries we have ambassadors in. And basically what they're planning on doing is specifically what you just mentioned. We want to go out to, conferences or unconferences like SpaceUp. We want to reach out to our local newspapers. We want to reach out to any universities or educational institutions where we might be able to present. Our strategy really is twofold. We want to certainly capture the online masses. That's something that every organization knows is successful. But we also believe that in order to set ourselves apart, in order to really strengthen our organization, we need to have boots on the ground. We need to have people in different communities as a representative, as an expert, as somebody who is actively going out into the community and spreading the word, not just about TMI, or Mars exploration, but just space exploration in general. And I think that's where we're going to build the momentum, as having those boots on the ground.
One of the questions is, have you considered doing a tiered system? They're talking in the chat room right now about an all or nothing. It makes it a little bit harder because going all the way to Mars is very difficult. Is there any talk of doing something where you've got almost a tiered prize, kind of like what the X Prize does with the Google Lunar X Prize?
Well, that's actually a good question too, and I think because there are other organizations out there like the X Prize as a prime example, and there may be others that come up in the future with the asteroid mining. Who knows? There may be a prize to do that, but we really feel like this Mars initiative and sending humans to Mars is what we are passionate about personally at our organization. And that's what we want to see happen. And it's definitely more of a long-term goal. And that's precisely why we've set up our organization where it's 100% volunteer. So money that comes into our organization will never leave 5 years from now or 8 years from now for another side project, as exciting as it might be. We're just very focused on building that fund up to as largest amount as possible for that final mission to Mars.
And actually, we were tooling around your website a little bit earlier and noticed that even on the website, you've actually got bank statements showing how much you've raised and how all of it stays just in this fund.
That's correct. If you do donate to the Mars Initiative, number one, here's what you're guaranteed. You are guaranteed that the money that you donate will 100% go to the organization that actually puts humans on Mars. There's no risk. Second, because if you think about it, if you donate it to other organizations that are doing other things to possibly help get to Mars, they may be unsuccessful in doing that. So if you want to know 100% that my money will definitely go to that successful mission, then donate to the Mars Initiative. Second of all, the topic comes up of transparency. Yes, when you donate to the Mars Initiative, you can track your donation from the day you donate till the day it's actually paid out to that organization that goes to Mars. And finally, our bank statements are open to the public. We hide nothing. We're 100% transparent across the board. Every month, just kind of transition into another topic here that kind of relates to what makes our organization different is the fact that one of the challenges that we have as an organization, number one, we're global, and everybody works remotely, and everybody works part-time. That poses a lot of challenges in terms of being able to communicate well and execute well. And what we've been able to do is, number one, we have a conference call once a month where up to 1,000 people can get on the conference call and learn about what we're doing and possibly even give advice and ideas about how we want to move forward. So that's very unique for an organization to do that, including our transparency. And second of all, we are very fortunate to have a technology which is donated to us by MG Technologies. It's basically a software platform. And fortunately, we have some folks in our organization, all volunteers again, who have designed a very unique platform that allows us to share, to collaborate, to communicate very efficiently and effectively. And it's really the only way that we can do that as a remote or as an organization where everyone works remotely and part-time. So that just gives you a little bit more about what we're trying to do here.
Awesome. And again, not to be the nitpicker of the group, but Ben is definitely more of the broad strokes person between the two of us, and I'm definitely more of the detail-oriented person. When you're talking about people being on Mars, setting up a habitat, et cetera, I would assume there's some sort of incentive to stay, other than, hey, I'm on Mars.
You're trying to prevent flags and footprints.
Right, we're trying to prevent flags and footprints. Is there anything, and maybe it's too soon, maybe you guys haven't quite sketched that part out yet, but is there anything that you have just sort of decided that you don't just have janitors who are there, or just, construction workers who are there who build a habitat and go, cool, and then come back home to Earth, I suppose, as it were?
Well, that's a good question. I guess we haven't really thought about that in detail in terms of, we're not really, we don't really see ourselves as the organization that is going to do the planning and who's going to decide who goes, right? That's not really for us to decide. We're a fundraising organization. But there are a lot of organizations out there like the Mars Foundation and a gentleman named Bruce McKenzie. He's a professor at MIT, and he's working on Mars habitats. And so we are working with those types of organizations and trying to build partnerships with them. But we like I said, we're not really the ones, and we don't see ourselves as an organization that would make those kind of decisions of who would actually go.
So where can people go for more information, to donate, to help you guys out? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, so our website is one word, marsinitiative.org. And on our website, if you look at the top of the website, you can see the opportunity if you're inspired and you want to help in our effort and what we're doing. You can subscribe as a space advocate there, and that's basically saying we support you and to help grow our numbers, so that, as you had mentioned before, that helps with bringing in people who want to advertise, and it also helps with politics, because politics is important, right? We need to get governments behind our efforts as well too. So come and visit us and join us as a space advocate and support us in that way. You can also click on our volunteer section, and when you do, you'll go into our behind-the-scenes software platform, which will allow you to choose from various positions that we have open within the organization that would really help drive us forward, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through web, whether it's through there's just so many different ways that you can volunteer with the Mars Initiative, promoting various ways. So you can do that right from our website.
And you can donate for as little as $1.33 a month, and that's actually a $1 donation, essentially, I assume. The 33 cents is payment processing.
Exactly.
And if you get 1 million people to do that, just donate essentially less than a latte in the morning, you get 1 million people to do that. That's $1 million purse for whoever makes it to Mars first.
Right, it's $1 million a month, and that's really our goal, is 1 million people for a human mission to Mars. And when we look at our average, there are obviously folks that do donate a little bit more than $1, right? Some donate $10, some $20, some $5. So, more likely is if we can get 1 million people, it'll be in the several millions per month that we would be accumulating, and that money would compound over time. And just think about the impact that would have on organizations around the world that are thinking, hey, well, maybe there's a possibility that we can also join in this effort, like China or India. I mean, they're not as far ahead as we are, but they're coming very quickly, and we don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years. So those are definitely the ways that people can promote us and join our effort, and we invite as many people to do that as are interested.
So for as little as just over $1 per month, that helps. And then telling your family and friends, because you don't just need that $1 per month, you need the mass number of people as well. And I guarantee you there are over 1 million people on the planet who would be willing to spend $1.33 per month to help fund a mission to Mars, or at least help incentivize people to go to Mars. I'll call this the People's X Prize, almost, as it were, saying this is what we want, we're willing to put money behind it, let's make this go. And I feel like $1.33 is inconsequential for most people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I said, just one more time, you know that when you donate that money, it's not going towards operational costs. I failed to mention our operational costs right now are less than $4 a month. It's really just our web server. That's it. Everything else is donated to our organization, and everyone works volunteer. So it's a really incredible organization to be a part of. It gives people the opportunity to collaborate with people all over the world that you would otherwise never have the opportunity to meet with so many different types of experiences, whether engineers or scientists or whatever. And it's so unique and wonderful to work with people who have the same type of a passion that we do here and that you do at Spacevidcast.
Awesome. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about viewer comments from next week. I absolutely love the Mars Initiative. I think this is a great idea. Stay with us. We'll be right back. He was a good guest. And welcome back. They're giving me trouble in the chat room because apparently I said next week.
You were just so excited.
I was.
You're
think.
And we're going to talk about your comments in the future.
I don't know. I think the Mars Initiative is one of those programs. I can definitely get behind the Mars Initiative.
Absolutely.
I think it's not a lot of money, and I will do everything I can to get as many people to do, as much as you can afford reasonably month after month. But I feel like $1.33 per month at 1 million users could be some real actual leverage to help incentivize companies to go to Mars and say, oh, look, there's something here.
Right.
So, I got really excited. And then, yeah.
And then
Viewer comments from last week. This one comes from Quantum G, who wrote a mini novel for us. He said, and this was in reference to Stott Space. And he said, the most that's ever been crowdfunded for a single project is $6.2 million for the video game Star Citizen, and no one's even come close. Why? Because there's a lot more developers trying to do that, along with a whole bunch of other people doing other things. What's the primary factor for getting people to contribute to your campaign? Targeted media reach. Targeted at who? People who actually open their wallet regularly. The base of this comment going to, for people to target space geeks, you have to give them something in return that they're going to be willing to open their wallet for. And that's hard to do, right?
That's difficult
games
to
are
do.
easy because they're already used to spending a boatload of money on the games. And if you say, look, give us $20, you get the game. Boom, done and done, right? Especially if it's a really cool game. Space.
Well, it's really specific too. You know, I might like Angry Birds, and Ben might like Halo. Like those are very specific games where we might both be, right? But we might both consider ourselves gamers or people who play games. But those games are really specific. I know Angry Birds.
Angry Birds are not gamers.
I know, but it was the first thing that came to mind. But my point is, it's really, really specific. And while you have space is kind of all-encompassing, and yes, you have the people who focus on human spaceflight, people who focus on, just astrological things. Astrological. I need to be kicked off the show. You know what I'm saying? That you have all these facets, but they do kind of they relate to one another, and it's not as drilled down. It's not as niche, I suppose, is the word that I'm looking for. And so it's difficult. I might totally get behind asteroid mining but I'm much more for human. I don't know. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
No, yeah, I agree, right? It's especially when there's no like, here's what you get in return,
Right.
right? And with Stop Space, actually, that brings up our next comment. I love the idea, guys, but honestly, I'm going to need a bit more than a guy who runs a security company with a team and a dream to give money to. And this is from Astrodan. So it really comes down to, there are a lot of large companies trying to do, not even necessarily large companies, but guys who have a lot of money. Golden Spike, Planetary Resources, Deep Space. These guys have, or at least know guys with deep pockets, and they've been doing space-based stuff for a while.
Right.
And they're just as passionate, right? These aren't corporate guys wearing a tie going, how can we fleece the people and get the. These are guys who, with every fiber of their being, want humanity to be out and exploring the cosmos. That's who these people are, and they're struggling with this as well. And so I think Astrodan's point is, if they're struggling with it, how can this I don't want to say kid, but
Well, no, but he's a dreamer, right? It's the same kind of thing, right? You are very much more broad strokes, et cetera, and I'm much more detail oriented, and we make a good team in that way. But yeah, just kind of saying, you know what I would like to do one day? I'd like to swim in the pools of Europa. You can't just say that and then just like have people donate to that and just have it be like a cool thing. It's not just like a thing because you want it to be a thing. Like, you have to have a business plan behind it. It has to make some sort of sense. Just saying you come from Montana or Wyoming or something just doesn't explain why you don't have any gear. When Planetary Resources came out, they said, hey, not only do we want to do this, but here's the stuff we're going to use to help make that happen. It's, maybe it's just too soon. Maybe they will have that kind of thing, but they don't right now. And that's sort of the sort of frustrating part, I suppose. I would love to get behind them, absolutely, because I believe in people having dreams. But
yeah,
man,
but I understand. I get that.
selling T-shirts isn't going to get you to space.
But
As Astro
But
did.
why shouldn't it? I guess I understand the comment, that I don't necessarily disagree, but why
Right.
shouldn't it, right? You talk to many people out on the street and you ask them, should we go back to the moon? Are you excited in the cosmos? You just start a conversation about space and the cosmos, and you can get almost anyone excited about this stuff just by starting a conversation.
It's such a large concept, though. It's
Well,
such a
it is
huge...
infinite, isn't it?
It's so big, it might be too big, as it were. And just being like, hey, all I want to do is get people excited. Flippin' A, awesome.
I love the chat room. Crowdsource a reality TV show set within SpaceX headquarters behind the scenes for launches. And immediately thereafter, they're like, I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
That'd sell T-shirts.
wait, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. I don't know if there's a right.
There isn't necessarily a right answer. There isn't necessarily a wrong.
It's not right or wrong.
No,
it's he's trying. At least he's trying to do something. It's easy for us to say, but at least he's trying to do something.
Yeah, no, I give him all the credit in the world. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's also not the easiest thing to not just want to do it and not just start to do it, but then publicly announce that you're trying to do something too.
Mm-hmm.
The chances you falling in your face are pretty big, and to be able to get in front of people and say, but I'm going to try it anyway, that's huge.
This mirrors.
I don't do that.
This mirrors very closely, with the exception of one key fact, very closely another company, which is SpaceX. A lot of people laughed at SpaceX in the beginning, saying, you can't do that. You have no idea what you're getting into.
Right.
You can't just go build a rocket, and you can't make it a common price across the board. You guys are nuts, right? And look at them now.
Yeah, but some of those people were also special interest people
absolutely.
saying that, like, not only do I think you can't do it, but I don't want you to do it.
But go back to the Falcon.
That's different.
No, but go back to the Falcon 1 days.
PRI going, oh, that's not space. They're crap. They're not going to. They're not going to say something like that. Because
It's different now because they have so much success.
I don't know if
Back
it
in the Falcon
necessarily is
1 days.
different now.
All right. Well, let's move on. All right. Steven says there have been quite a few episodes this year that have discussed crowdsourcing, and now there's a TV show getting $2 million. This was the Veronica Mars one, I believe,
Yes.
right? Getting to start a movie in one day. They they reached that $2 million in a day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, which is impressive.
If a TV show can get $2 million in a day, why can't we kickstart a space program? I think the key here is $2 million for the TV show, which, by the way, didn't fund the whole thing. Remember, that $2 million was Warner Brothers saying, look, if you can raise $2 million, we'll back the rest.
Which, bad on Warner Brothers if they were just like, all right, yeah, fine, whatever, $2 million, make that happen. And then everyone went, okay.
The other thing is, it's only $2 million. You're not getting to space for $2 million. Straight up, you're not even getting to...
It's not even comparable. It's not, you can't compare these two. Veronica Mars was a great TV show that a lot of people
I've never
watched.
seen it.
But listen, a lot of people watched, a lot of people got invested in, a lot of people felt a connection to these characters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they said, hey, did you want more of that? Now it's sort of like, hey man, we haven't been to space in how many years? There's an entire generation of people who've never seen space. Hey, you want to try it? There's a reason nobody's been there because it's kind of scary and it's kind of dangerous and we don't know anything about it. Do you want to take the risk? There's a difference between this is the stuff you know, do you want more of, and hey, we haven't done it for a while because it kind of is dangerous and it sort of sucks a little bit. Do you want to maybe risk it again? Different things.
Well, we haven't done going to the moon for a while. We've never been to Mars, but we're in space right now. I mean, there are 6 astronauts aboard the International Space Station as we speak. So, I mean, we've had a presence in space for a long time.
Law Dog says call the space program Veronica Mars. Not a bad idea.
Well, that will get you $2 million, but what's that $2 million get you?
not gonna
I
get
think
you
it really
anywhere.
comes down to funding, right? $2 million doesn't get you even a seat on it doesn't even come close to getting you a seat on a vehicle to go to space. It gets you a
suborbital seat.
It gets you a suborbital seat on a vehicle that's not flying yet. That's it. That's all it gets you. So that's part of the problem, right? If you want to fund a space program, you need billions. Straight up, if you want to fully fund it, right? You
Yeah.
need billions.
Yeah.
So, and there are different ways to fund that, right? You can do just a seat, you can do just part of it, you can do just the habs, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, the point of debating the comment is it's all about the sheer size, the scale of it, right? $2 million for Veronica Mars, easy. Billions of dollars for space, much harder. That goes back to Quantum G's initial comment of, look, they haven't raised more than $6.2 million for anything.
Right.
So you're not even remotely close to starting a space program through crowdfunding.
Yeah.
It's actually it is what it is. All right. We'll end the show with that one. We're running out of time anyhow. So
Okay.
I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and for everyone who participated in next week's comments. Apparently,
Thank you for those.
for those of you watching live, Spacevidcast After Dark is up next. If you're not watching live and would like to watch After Dark, feel free to do so with our Spacevidcast Epic program. Speaking of funding, Epic is what helps make Spacevidcast do what we do. It's $10 a month or $100 a year, and that subscription gets you access to After Dark, an ad-free experience, and of course it helps us continue to produce the show. Your money goes directly into new equipment, new gear, hosting charges, so forth and so on.
It doesn't actually go to new shoes for me.
It doesn't go to new shoes
for
her.
anyone who's worried.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Or shirts.
Or shirts.
New shoes or shirts. Nope, neither one of
I've
those.
seen this one before.
Well, I totally lost my train of thought.
I
So
apologize.
That's
Steven
all right.
is still with us, I believe.
Yeah, so we'll hit him back up in After Dark. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you in a week. Stuff. And I would love it. I would absolutely love it if there were a day when Spacevidcast had better ratings than Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. That would be like the most epic, awesome day for me in the world. I know that's a huge far cry from reality, but that's my plea for everyone. YouTube.com, and then go to /Spacevidcast and subscribe, and that will help us out. And of course, watch the videos. Because, like I said, it's a numbers game. All right, let's get straight into space news then. SpaceUp San Diego is this weekend, March 23rd and 24th, and SpaceUp is my personal favorite unconference. If you're not familiar with what an unconference is, you've probably been to a traditional conference, one would hope, one where you go in and you see the speakers and they do their thing. And then what happens is you go out in the hallway and you have these really awesome and interesting conversations with people, right?
Yeah.
And what SpaceUp is they eliminate the speakers completely and say, let's just have those hallway conversations. So when you show up, there are no speakers, there are no topics, no one's talking about anything. There are just a series of rooms and people. And you go up to a whiteboard and say, at this time, let's talk about Here comes Honey Boo Boo. I don't know. Here, let's talk about plutonium. Let's talk about SpaceX. Let's talk about, if you can find a way to make it out there, join us at SpaceUp San Diego. That's basically this coming weekend, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Also coming up is Yuri's Night, and that is occurring on April 12th, as it does every year, because April 12th is the anniversary that Yuri Gagarin first entered space, which is kind of awesome. It was the first time that any human had entered into space, stayed afloat for a little bit there, and then came back down eventually. And then April 12th, 1981, that was April 12th, 1961, I apologize, 1981 was the very first space shuttle launch. So it also holds not just significance in the human spaceflight arena, and not just the Russian spaceflight arena, but also the American spaceflight arena, and really for all of humanity, which is really, really cool. And Yuri's Night is a space party celebrating our human presence in space, and those also are going on worldwide, as well as off-world on the ISS has a tendency to have some parties, and also things like Second Life, World of Warcraft, etc., etc. So hit up yurisnight.net, find a party near you, and if there isn't a party near you, start one, and it'll be epic.
It better be, at least.
It will be.
So in the late 1980s, the United States stopped producing plutonium.
So go ahead.
Thanks for that. I was at work last Friday, and we were talking about different television shows. For example, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, right? And kind of how television is degrading into just this lowest common denominator type thing. And we got to talking about how there's going to be this divide between the lowest common denominator for television and potentially the more epic stuff sitting on the internet, stuff like Spacevidcast. I will use us as an example.
I was just going to say, I'm sure that came up in conversation.
Well, no, it did. It totally did. But in order for this to, it's a numbers game. Right? It really comes down to the number of subscribers to your channel, how many views that you've got, and that's going to attract advertisers, and that's going to get you the money that helps you produce better shows, that helps you get more viewers, where it snowballs. So my plea for everyone isn't to give us money, it isn't to do anything else, although we always appreciate your epic subscriptions. My plea is go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. If you've got friends, go there and subscribe. And if you like the shows, actually watch them and talk to people about them, because at the end of the day, it's that growth that advertisers like to see. And by showing some of that growth, you can actually do more and more. Next generation propulsion in space.
Right.
And you choose what you want to talk about, and anyone who's interested in that topic joins you for your room, and you have a roundtable discussion about whatever it may be. And it is a ton of fun. And because of that particular format, it just so happens that everything is then hyper relevant to whatever happened. Unlike a traditional conference, they've got the speakers well in advance. So if there was something that just recently happened in space, the most recent grasshopper jump, right? There's probably not going to be anyone on stage talking about that at a traditional conference, but at a SpaceUp, very likely that something like that would be
Not to
brought up.
mention that how many times have you gone to a conference, maybe the same conference or even different conferences, and they have the exact same people there talking about the exact same thing, almost giving the exact same speech they gave at the last conference you saw them at. This is different because while you've been to those conferences, you're not going to be giving that speech. Ben's not going to be giving that speech. I'm not going to be giving that speech. We are going to have a much more interesting conversation than anything that could be done at a regular conference.
So that's this March 23rd and 24th, and it's in San Diego. And there are SpaceUps all over the world at this point. It's kind of growing organically. It's really cool. But our personal favorite is San Diego because it was the first. It's where the founders were. It is the birthplace of SpaceUp. And so coming up,
SpaceUp San Diego and Yuri's Night.
the United States starts remaking plutonium.
And Chris Hadfield's the commander of the ISS, eh?
All that, plus we've got a live interview with the Mars Initiative. Stay tuned. It's go time.
Private space station.
and welcome to Spacevidcast, episode 6.08 for Saturday, March 16th, 2013. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. And before we get into space news today, I do have a quick plea for everyone out there. I'd like to tell a story, actually, if I may, to go into my plea.
Okay, but you suck at stories.